Hey there, and welcome to Get Career Curious, the podcast that gives you the inside scoop on careers. Have you ever wondered what it really takes to be an engineer and if all that hard schoolwork is worth it? Well, today I'm joined by Patrick Fanning, a mechanical engineer turned consultant whose career has taken him from ExxonMobil's massive energy projects to PWC's cutting-edge advisory work. Patrick shares how he figured out he wanted to be an engineer back in high school, what helped him stand out at competitive college career fairs, and the one mindset that'll help you crush your next interview. So if you're even thinking about a career in engineering, or just want to sound confident in the next recruiter convo, this episode's for you. Hi, Patrick. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Hello, Marita. Happy to be here.
So, Patrick, can you back us up into high school and kind of how you decided to go into engineering?
Yeah, of course. So it's a funny question because I look back and really when you're in high school, for all my high school listeners out there, you kind of you're flying blind. Like you don't really know what the future holds, how the job market's going to evolve. You're probably not even thinking about what is the market going to demand in the next 5 to 10 years. So for me personally, I was in high school and I was like, man, you know what? I really enjoy doing math and science. Okay. And my dad was a mechanical engineer. It seemed to work out for him. I might as well give it a shot too. That was really the extent of thought I put into it. That's it.
And so when you applied to Texas, which has an amazing program, did you have to declare what sort of engineering field you wanted to be in? And why did you choose your field?
Yeah, so University of Texas was unique in the sense that I actually had to declare to a specific engineering field going in as a freshman. Other programs, other schools that I applied to, like Texas A&M, you would apply to the engineering school, and then after, I want to say your first semester or first year in the program, then you would declare a major. So again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying for the last question, where it's just like, I love math and science. My dad was a mechanical engineer. Why don't I give that a try too? And I went that route.
What is unique about mechanical engineering? Like, I don't know anything about it. So when you say you liked math and science, were they all math and science-based classes, or what were the requirements and classes like?
I would say it was definitely a very demanding or math and science heavy course load.
Okay.
When you look at mechanical engineering, my favorite way to describe it is jack of all trades, master of none. So you have like aerospace engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, where these engineerings typically go specifically into roles in the aerospace industry, or you'll do industrial construction for one of the general contractors. Chemical is very heavy in pharmaceuticals as well as oil and gas. Mechanical, when I look at what my friends have done with their mechanical engineering degrees, I have friends that are working on nuclear projects. I have friends that are overseas in oil and gas. I have friends that went into strategy consulting and have pivoted to more business roles. So I kind of looked at mechanical engineering again as that jack of all trades. And that's what really excited me, is just the breadth of opportunities that came with that degree.
Well, that's great to hear. And so when you were a freshman, you finished and you started applying to internships, and you landed some very impressive ones. So how did you secure those opportunities? Was it campus recruiting, like cold outreach, faculty connections, family connections? How did you kind of get your foot in the door with internships?
Great question. It's kind of a funny one because when you first get to college, you're a freshman, you have no work experience. I mean, right. I came in and the most experience I had was as a cashier at Albertsons. And you go talk to these companies and they're like, we're looking for someone who has some work experience. And you're like, how do I get work experience if you guys aren't going to give me my first internship?
Correct.
One thing that I found very helpful, and I will have to give credit to my father here. So Jim, if you're listening, shout out you. He had me that first winter break reach out to just about everybody I knew in an email. Essentially, is step one in building your network. Hey, I'm Patrick Fanning. I'm a mechanical engineer at University of Texas. These are some of the classes I've taken. This is what I find interesting. I was wondering if you or any of your colleagues know of any potential internship opportunities that are popping up. And I sent that email out to all my aunts and uncles, all my parents' friends I knew. I'm talking like my buddy's dad, who was my baseball coach when I was in middle school. And you just kind of cast a wide net and you see what comes back and you go from there. And that's really step one to building that network and trying to get it in.
Yeah, no, I think especially in such a competitive marketplace, working personal connections first is a great way to start. So did you do many of the career events on campus, and did you find those successful, worthwhile, or not really?
Absolutely. I found them worthwhile. Actually, one of my regrets was having not done the freshman year career fair at University of Texas. People were like, oh, no one's looking for freshmen, this, that. And I was like, all right, I guess I won't go. I would say absolutely take advantage of all the years you're at the university. Those career fairs are a great opportunity for you to, one, just print off 30 resumes and go hand them out to everyone and anyone. But then two, getting the opportunity to work on your elevator pitch and really start to formulate how you sell yourself in that quick 30-second to a minute where you have the recruiter's attention. And after you do that time after time after time, when you actually get into an interview, it's just going to feel like clockwork. I mean, it's muscle memory at that point.
Yeah, that's super advice. And what would you put in your elevator pitch, or what did you put that kind of helped?
Oh, man. What did I put in my elevator pitch? It's funny. The real juggle is making it sound like you didn't stand in front of the mirror for 30 minutes the night before and rehearse it over and over again. You want it to sound like pretty fluid. I typically like to mix in some personal as well as professional achievements and just characteristics. I'd normally start off just being like, hey, I'm Patrick. I'm from Chicago. Like huge Bears sports fan, just to see like maybe this guy's a Chicago sports fan and we can chat about that. Because at the end of the day, these people are talking to probably hundreds of candidates.
Right.
And if you go in and you just say, I did this math class, I did this science class, and I did this internship, chances are everybody's done that math class, everybody's done that science class, and everyone's had an internship at that point. But if you're the kid that like, oh, he ran a marathon and he's a big Bears fan, but he's also like very nervous about Caleb Williams, it just helps you stand out a little bit. And you never know. It might be what gets your foot in the door for that interview and gets you to the next round. So really just try and make it memorable. Sprinkle in some personal items that help you stand out, as well as highlighting just high level your professional achievements.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I've listened to a number of people who teach networking, and it really is your elevator pitch shouldn't be so much of your resume. It should be a quick, interesting story that makes them remember you. So when they see your resume, they're like, oh, that was Patrick Fanning. He's the Bears fan from Chicago. So it's making the connection memorable. So yeah, I would totally agree. And would you say you see young candidates doing common mistakes during the interviews or networking process that, you'd suggest they avoid?
So I've not had a lot of experience on the interviewing side. I will say talking to my brothers or some of their friends and kind of giving them advice. The big mistake I see is people being like, oh, I'm not good enough for that company, or that company doesn't want me. And then they never go have the conversation, drop the resume. My advice there is the worst thing that happens, absolute worst thing that happens, is they say no. And you're right back where you started. So why not take the extra 10, 15 minutes, wait in that line, have that conversation?
Yeah. Good advice. So looking back at your first internship, what did you do and what did you learn? Was it valuable? And what did you take back to school?
I would say my first pivotal internship was with Arco Murray, and they're a design build company. So I worked as a project manager, and they build all the Topgolfs. It was a great experience.
Oh, fun.
I know, super fun. Well, they build all the Topgolfs, and then they build storage warehouses as well. Oh. I got put on a storage warehouse project, but it was still an awesome experience. Big takeaways. I mean, it's funny. You do these engineering degrees and you buckle in for 6 months and you're doing like thermodynamics and heat transfer and all this very technical stuff. And a lot of the times it does not apply one-to-one to what you're doing in the real world. Like the degree is more of a hurdle where recruiters are like, all right, this person is willing to like roll up their sleeves and really dig into the material and can problem solve well. He'll be good at this role where he's going to be asked to adapt to different situations. And I would say that was what we had to do in this project. I mean, the project I was working on got hit by a 500-year storm out in New Mexico, which caused like some severe flooding that essentially eroded the ground all the way down to the base of the concrete foundation for the storage facility we were building. And you do problem solve from there. You're working with the subcontractors, trying to understand what the viable options are going forward. And taking that approach, I mean, we'll call it grit. Just getting ready, doing risk analysis, and understanding what your viable options are, I would say is what I probably took back to university as I proceeded on my career course.
Yeah, and we'll never map one-to-one your real life experience in your courses. And a lot of things I hear from students right now is engineering degrees are super hard, they're intensive. And in your opinion, was that hard work and determination worth it in the long run now that you're out working professionally?
I would say yes. I hope yes. In my 5 years so far, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the experiences that I've gotten because of this degree I have. Coming out of school, I went and worked for ExxonMobil, and they're a very engineering heavy company. Okay. And with that company, I got to go out to Midland and drive out to Carlsbad, New Mexico, and see some of our field operations out there. I got to work on a multi-billion-dollar construction project. We were building a liquid natural gas facility in the Gulf of Mexico. So my experiences have been really positive. And then when I look to my friends and what they've done, I'd mentioned earlier, like kids who have worked overseas on floating production vessels, kids doing nuclear engineering, kids in strategy consulting firms. The opportunities are really endless for a mechanical engineer. And it goes back to having that engineering degree is essentially a stamp that says, this kid's willing to go the distance and he's a great problem solver and he's got a good head on his shoulders. Like he can adapt to any environment.
Yeah. So for listeners, like if you're interested in math and science but aren't exactly sure what specific field or industry you want to go into, mechanical engineering is a great path to go because there are so many opportunities and it gives you much more time to figure out and sort out like exactly where you want to land. And speaking of that, how did you land with Exxon? Why did you choose them as your kind of first leap into the professional world?
First and foremost, I mean, they're a very well-renowned company that is working on some of the, I would say, most elite or front-of-the-line engineering activities around the world, really. So getting the chance to kind of join one of those teams, I mean, very, very smart individuals on all the teams, a lot to learn from both the projects and the peers, which was really exciting for me. The third piece that was a huge appeal was opportunities to travel with the work. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to land any of the international opportunities, but that I would say was another key driver.
Very cool. And what would you say was the hardest part about transitioning from college to work, like into your full-time job?
Another really good question. One of the hardest things was in college, there's always an answer. All of these technical classes you're doing, you could do 3 pages of math front and back, but it's going to come down to an answer. And you can put a box around it, call it a day, go home. In the real world, there is not always an answer. At least there's not always a clear answer. Being able to work in that ambiguous environment is really important. Right. And it starts with being able to define the question. If you can define the question, you are actually over 50% of the way there to solving it. So that would probably be my biggest takeaway from the transition from school to working professionally.
And how many years did you work before deciding to go back and get your MBA? And why did you decide to do that?
So I'd always wanted to get my MBA. Again, doing mechanical engineering definitely helped me with a solid technical background. Mm-hmm. But I was always curious about the business side. Reason being is there's just kind of two routes you can take with an engineering degree. You can go the subject matter expert route, where you just like get very technical and drill into one facet of a overall process. And then you can also go the project management route. And there's probably 100 different ways you can go. Those are the two options that I saw coming out of my career and where I'm at right now. In that project manager role, I just thought it'd be really beneficial to have a stronger background in the business space, especially when it comes to business development and just understanding financial models and the decisions that are made around how capital is deployed for growing companies. So that was really appealing to me. The idea came to fruition probably around my second or third year with Exxon, when I was on the Golden Pass liquid natural gas facility project. I would kind of be in meetings where they would mention some of the finances behind the OpEx and CapEx that was spent to get the project to where it is, and wanting to have a better understanding of how those decisions were made and what was being discussed behind closed doors to get us to the point where we were on the project.
Yeah, and that finance is its specialty onto its own. I can see how those topics weren't really covered in your degree as an undergrad. I could see the need or the desire to want to learn more about finance.
Yep.
Stepping back, because I meant to ask you this. So when you were with Exxon, how much of your job was, let's say, in meetings behind a desk? How much were you out on project work? Just to get a sense, because I think a lot of people, when they think of an engineering degree, they think it's a completely corporate environment. That might be the case, or it might be a mix. So what was your day-to-day like?
To kind of give a feel of the versatility of roles you could have with an engineering degree, the entirety of my time at Exxon was comprised of two main job roles. The first one being as a construction engineer on the Golden Pass project. So again, we're building this liquid natural gas facility in the Gulf of Mexico. And this was very much like you're strapping up the steel toe boots and you're heading out of the field. I mean, I was probably getting 10 to 15,000 steps in a day, walking around site, doing progress walks, safety walks, checking quality with some of our quality superintendents. So we'll say half the time in the field, 30% of the time in meetings. And again, these are progress meetings with the superintendents, safety meetings, engineering meetings, kind of a whole host of activities. And then the last 20% is kind of on your own, trying to progress the different projects you're working on. From there, I went from a construction engineering role to a project controls engineering role in our Houston campus. So this was part of the low carbon solutions group, which in a nutshell is essentially trying to focus and progress carbon capture technologies, primarily the Gulf of Mexico area. And in this role, this is much more like I'm wearing a button down, I'm going into the office, I'm probably working on my own projects 50% of the time, in meetings 50% of the time. And it was very much more on the business side of activities, just tracking costs and understanding different metrics that management's making to really gauge the health of the organization.
And did you personally like one role or the other?
I will say I saw value in both of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to have like strong understandings in how the fieldwork is being executed, as well as how some of the back end money is being tracked. Personally, I loved the construction engineering role. That was probably my favorite. I mean, you're meeting with the guys who are bending the rebar and putting it into the ground, and you're trying to understand like what issues they're running into, how we can best serve them. And then you turn around and you kind of look at overall strategy on what do we need to deploy across site to make sure that we're meeting our safety goals and are working around mobile equipment. People are putting themselves in harm's way when we have all this major machinery being operated at any given time. So I kind of like the juggling all the different aspects of the construction line.
Now you have transitioned roles to a senior associate at PWC. So what are your key responsibilities there, and what are you working on?
Yes. So I finished the MBA, decided to pivot and test out consulting, try my luck there. The senior associate role has been good. It is essentially a step to manager. So on one hand, I do have a couple of my own projects that I'm overseeing and executing. But then on another hand, I get to work closely with either other senior associates or associates and kind of coach them on where my expertise excels on the project we're doing and help build strategies with them on how best to take another ambiguous situation that our client finds himself in and make sense of it and give them back something that they can use and deploy that'll help benefit them going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about consulting is you're basically hired as a subject matter expert to help solve a client's problem. And it's usually a pretty complex and ambiguous problem. So getting back to what you said earlier, it really is defining.
The ambiguity's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is part of your daily job that might surprise people?
I don't know if there's any surprises in my daily job. I will say one thing that I love, and this is at Exxon as well as at PWC, is I really enjoy like meeting with people face to face, understanding what they're seeing, and then getting a taste of what their experience is in the subject and any suggestions that they have. I mean, I think there's so much to learn from senior management. Like at ExxonMobil, I had a whole host of construction superintendents that I worked with. And these are, for the most part, blue collar guys that came up as welders and have been in the industry for 30 years. They're all salt of the earth guys, have lived in every like corner of earth that you could imagine. And just getting to talk and learn from them and then try and incorporate some of their experiences and stories they tell you into the work you're doing, I found very beneficial. And I've really cherished it going forward. Now, that being said, as much fun as it is to kind of listen to your seniors, you should never just blindly listen to what they say. There always needs to be a little bit of challenging the status quo, because you never know. That video game you played in middle school, that like little strategy you came up with, might actually be able to be spun into a legitimate strategy that you can deploy at work one day that no one has thought of because nobody's played that video game. Which is a very niche example, but you get the point.
And have you had that experience, Patrick?
Personally, I have not at least not tying back to a video game, but I have challenged the status quo a handful of times, and probably 15% of the time I've actually turned some heads and people have been like, oh, we actually didn't consider that at all.
Well, that's great. That's what you bring to the table. So I mean, that's super.
The alternative is I say something and it's wrong. We're like, no, that's wrong. And we're right back where we started.
So what is your thought on your first job coming out of college and how it influences the path of your career? Do you think that is a pivotal thing? Should people be considering that, like what industry they take right out of college, or should they be more open to whatever comes their way?
I don't think there's anything wrong with just, obviously, if one opportunity comes your way, you should take that one opportunity and you should give it your best shot. Because a lot of the skills that you're going to deploy in any job you take are going to be transferable. So if you just get one opportunity, take that one opportunity, give it your best, learn as much as you can, and then you can try and pivot from there. The things that I was focused on coming out of school was just, where can I go work on big, cool engineering projects? Mm-hmm. And it really was not much more complex than that. ExxonMobil, it can be a polarizing company. I mean, there's definitely parts of the country that are like, oh my gosh, you worked in oil and gas. How could you? And I kind of go back and forth on that. It's such a necessity to everything we do. I mean, to the people who kind of like turn their nose to it, I'm like, you need to take a step back and look at everything you're wearing and like all the synthetics in your clothes or any plastic that is made possible by the oil and gas industry. I didn't have much of an issue going into that industry. I definitely was more eager to get involved on the energy side. I think energy consumption is only going to increase going forward.
Oh yeah, especially with AI.
Especially with AI. And you look at other countries, especially the countries that are close to the US, like China, and they're really starting to progress in like some of the nuclear energy space with these SDRs. And I'm curious to see how that evolves in the US. That's probably what I'm most eager to hopefully get involved on with PWC, are some of these small modular reactor projects.
So how have new technologies like data analytics, robotics, AI, how are they starting to affect the energy industry or your job?
So at ExxonMobil, it was funny. We were just, I think in the last year I was there, they were just starting to introduce some of the AI capabilities. And I
Okay.
really did get a good chance to play around and see how it was really being utilized going forward for new projects and activities. PWC seems a little bit further along in their AI implementation. In the line of work that I'm in specifically, we do a lot of risk analysis. And
Okay.
with that, we use a Monte Carlo analysis where essentially you're just running 10,000 iterations of different chains of activities. And then you can
Mhm.
introduce different costs or schedule risks throughout that chain of activity. And it will just give you a holistic like bell curve of where you can expect the project to end up from a schedule or cost perspective. I think the AI is continuing to be woven into those technologies. And I'll be curious to see how it helps us like generate quicker outputs going forward.
Okay. So moving on to soft skills, what soft skills do you think help someone in college stand out in the interview process for a full-time job in consulting or as an engineer?
I mean, I think the best one is just being able to have a conversation and trying your best to at least come across relaxed during that conversation. Can't be rigid with your answers and it needs to be fluid. Because at the end of the day, these people are hiring you to either put you in front of their management or put you in
Right.
front of clients. And the last thing they want is someone that's going to get into this situation and just completely close off or not be able to interact with that key stakeholder.
Yeah, and I think that is a key point because a lot of people consider engineers to be not super people oriented. And I think that's a big misnomer, or it's not, and it's a huge differentiator for someone. So what's your take on that? You've been around a lot of engineers.
No, you bring up a great point. I guess going back on the last question, for me specifically, as someone who wants to be in more of a project management role where you're more people facing,
Yeah.
it's important to kind of have that attribute I described. That being said, it's totally okay if you're not a people person. I know
Yeah.
plenty of friends who are not
Super
people.
outgoing.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
outgoing. It's probably the better way to put it. And they've landed phenomenal jobs. And they're leveraging more of their technical acumen than I would say I am.
So is there something you wish you knew when you were a student that you would want to share now with someone who's in the throes of college and considering what they want to do? What advice do you have for them?
I think the most important thing you can do when you're in your undergrad and you're just surrounded by all these young, bright, energetic people is just build your network. I mean, it can be as simple as in a new class, you go sit by someone new and introduce yourself. And that's how I met one of my best friends from University of Texas. I'll never forget. We were in Calculus 2 and he came and sat by me and was like, pretty sure I had you in one of our visual arts classes. And I was like, what's up? I'm Patrick. And that was that. He was many late nights we spent at the library
Yeah.
together over the next 3 years. But do that. And then the other one is check out. So they'll do career fairs, but they'll also do at the beginning of the year, all of the organizations typically will set up a stand and just kind of promote the activities they're doing. I would
Mhm.
say definitely go to that. Try and talk to as many people as you can and see what interests you. And if something interests you, get involved. I mean, it's not going to be a crazy commitment. It'll probably be like 3 to 5 hours a week at max. And it's a great opportunity to kind of, one, separate yourself on your resume. So you're not just the kid who's doing all the classes everyone else is doing, but two, meet new people in a new environment.
Something that we spoke about earlier that I also thought was really great advice was about realizing where you choose college does influence where you get a job. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, that is one thing that I did not know going in. Um,
Mhm.
where you like regionally where you go for your undergrad will typically have a big influence on where you get your job coming out of school. So engineering at University of Texas, a lot of the big engineering opportunities in Texas are in the energy industry. So at the career fair, you see a lot of oil and gas companies, you see a lot of energy companies. Sure enough, that's where I landed. So
Yeah, and I think energy is a great industry. It's not going to go away, and there's certainly a lot of change going on. Do you see like alternative energy being something that, like solar or wind, do you work on those types of projects now that you're with PWC, or is it still mainly oil and gas?
I've not personally worked on those projects. I know people that have, and I do think I think you're right. It's going to continue to grow. The renewable energy space is definitely, I would think, the beginning of an exponential curve upwards. That being said, just with the demand for petroleum products as well as energy, I do not foresee the oil and gas industry diminishing anytime soon. And so I do think, like, if somebody's on the fence about should I go into oil and gas or should I try and pivot to some of this greener energy, you really can't go wrong. I think they're both going to grow as the energy demand continues to rise.
Yeah, and that's super uplifting because I know there's so many students out there right now really worried about landing a job after college because there's a lot of doom and gloom on there's just not hiring going on. And I do feel like in the energy space, it's growing and there still is a lot of hiring going on. So, Patrick, any other piece of advice that you'd like to leave listeners with, regarding your journey into mechanical engineering? And you've been in, 5 years? So what advice might you have for someone who's just starting out?
I'm definitely going to echo what I said earlier, and it's going to be similar to challenging the status quo, but just don't be afraid to take that first step, whether it's making a new connection in a class, joining a new organization, asking your boss in a meeting or interrupting a meeting to see if there's an alternative method or solution that hadn't been considered that you had just thought of. Don't be afraid to take that first step. Worst thing that happens, the absolute worst thing that happens is you're right back where you started. Especially in the first 5 years of your career, truthfully, nobody really expects much out of you. They're like, this kid just came out of college. We'll see what he can do. Throw the spaghetti against the wall, see what sticks, be bold, be fearless. You guys got this.
Wow, what an incredible conversation with Patrick Fanning. From learning that your first internship might start with a simple email to your parents' friends, to hearing how he navigated ExxonMobil's massive projects and found purpose in solving complex problems. Patrick reminded us that engineering is as much about curiosity and courage as it is about math and science. So here are a few of my favorite takeaways from today's episode. First, don't let fear or self-doubt stop you from applying. The worst they can say is no. Second, your elevator pitch should make people remember you, not just your resume. And third, and my favorite, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. That's how innovation starts. Now let me ask you something. Are you still figuring out your next step in your career journey? Whether you're pretty sure of what career you want, have no clue, or are somewhere in between, I can help. Check out the Career Compass, an AI-powered career. Check out the Career Compass, an AI-powered career exploration tool I built specifically for our Get Career Curious community. It's designed to help you discover careers that align with your unique interests, values, and strengths. And so far, the results have been super positive. You can find the link in the show notes or on the website, getcareercurious.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of this community. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little clear, Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little career inspiration today. Until next time, stay curious. Wow, what an incredible conversation with Patrick Fanning. Check out the Career Compass, an AI-powered career exploration tool I built specifically for our Get Career Curious community. It's designed to help you discover careers that align with your unique interests, values, and strengths. And so far, the results have been super positive. You can find the link in the show notes or on the website, getcareercurious.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of this community. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little career inspiration today. Until next time, stay curious.